You're listening to Geeksterilia's podcast.
Hi there. Hi, Geeksters. Oh my God, I'm so nervous right now. Welcome to Geeksterilia's podcast, your favorite podcast about sci fi, fantasy, TV shows, movies, and literature, as well as pop culture in general. My name is Cecilia, and today I am, like I said, a little bit nervous because this is my first ever English spoken episode. So bear with me if I'm not completely grammarly correct. But here I am. Okay, and today I am very excited, not just because it's my first episode in English, but because, well, my first episode in English deserved to be with a golden guest and talking about a golden series. So let me present you my first ever English speaking guest, the one and only Steven Stark from Here Be Dragons. Hi.
Hello, Cecilia. How are you?
I'm
Um,
doing great.
but unfortunately, I am not the one and only Stephen Stark. I have literally met another person in my life named Stephen Stark. So,
Yeah,
not the
sometimes
one
that
and only,
happens.
but one of the few, we'll say, one of the few.
Yeah, well, you are the one and only who is a YouTuber, so
That's totally true.
yeah, yeah. Look what I said. Look what John is saying here.
Yeah,
Stephen who?
I don't know. I don't know who that is. So,
No, no, not at all. I don't. So let me introduce you to our golden topic of the day. A very underrated, really awesome show, sci-fi show called The Expanse. And today we're going to talk about only the first 3 seasons. 3 seasons? um, yeah, because well, basically because I haven't seen the latest two. So, but yeah, but it's a lot of content to talk about. So we decided to split it into two separate videos, and this is the first part with the first 3 seasons. So for those who haven't seen The Expanse, don't worry, don't fret. We will be having a spoiler-free intro for you guys. So don't go away, and we will warn you when we are going to start the spoiler talk, okay? All right. So, Steven, first of all, why is this show your favorite sci-fi show right now?
um, that's a very broad question with a very broad answer. But I will say it does its fiction right and it does its science right.
Mhm.
Like it understands how to tell a very compelling human story while continuing to take very seriously the scientific challenges that we would face in living in a society that covers the entire solar system.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
don't go out of their way to invent things like shields and phasers and artificial gravity and warp drive, and none of that exists in the world of the expanse. They're relying
Mhm.
on technologies that we more or less have today, just refined, or technologies that we think we will have in the foreseeable future. Things like railguns and fusion reactors.
Mhm. Yeah. You mentioned something about, well, the challenges that this technology would bring us, and this is exactly what a great sci-fi story does. It puts it makes us wonder what the consequences or the moral consequences would be from a new technology uh, breakthrough, right? So this series really does a great job in presenting these challenges. So let me let me talk about the plot. I actually I never write something for this kind of podcast. I never write a script, but this time I actually did a little bit of writing because I didn't want to miss some of the details of this, some of the important details that may get you hooked into into the series. So here it goes. You can interrupt me if you want to add something to it, Steven.
Okay.
Feel free. Feel free to do it. Okay, so here is the plot. Here is what The Expanse is about. The Expanse is a sci-fi TV series that takes place in the 24th century, where humans have already conquered the solar system, and as expected, well, there's trouble. The big inner planets like Earth and Mars, well, they have a strong rivalry with each other, being the two most powerful nations. I mean, the whole planet is just one nation, is considered as a one nation, and same case for Mars. Well, these two are the two most powerful nations in the solar system, and they are often ignoring the needs of the Belfaloda, which are the people who live in the asteroid belts stations, in the asteroid belt stations, or the moons of the outer planets. So the Belters have a strong resentment towards the people of the inner planets for being looked down for so long and having the worst living conditions and suffering from a great number of injustice. For this reason, an organization within the belt called the OPA rose and grew, fed by the feelings of these belters. Of course, the inner planets see the OPA as terrorists, uh, and one of these guys is during the first episode is captured by the UN and Undersecretary General Mrs. Christian Abasarala and is interrogated slash tortured to find out about a mysterious advanced technology suspected to be sponsored by the Martians.
If I may, one of the things you just mentioned, Christian, and like
Mhm.
her introduction really sets the tone for the show. And it's not really that
Mhm.
much of a spoiler. It's early in the first episode of the first season where she is introduced, and she is
Mhm.
shown as this kind and loving grandmother. And then the very next time we see her, she's got a guy hanging from hooks using gravity to torture him to get information out of him. And there's a lot of that sort of gray area type character in this show. No one is
Mhm.
wholly good, no one is wholly bad. Even
Yeah.
even the people who are the most extreme, you can still understand what pushed them to their extremism.
Yes. Yes, and that is precisely one of the most interesting things about the series, the character development and the moral dilemma that everybody has. So yeah, it is done in a very smooth and interesting way. So meanwhile, in the ship called the Canterbury, we meet the protagonist of the story, James Holden, who is a discharged UN Navy member. I don't know which rank he hold in the past. um, but yeah, he's discharged, and now he's working in this ship called the Canterbury, and he has some leadership intentions and is being groomed up for being a captain in the future. And well, he, despite the leader of this ship intentions, he wishes to. I mean, uh, no, he decides to attend a distress call from another small ship called the Scopuli. The reason for which they didn't want to respond to this distress call was because it was a danger of falling in the hands of pirates. But he disobeys this order and decides to go help this ship. And he gathers a small yet not so happy crew, and he goes to the rescue, only to find that not only everyone in the ship was dead, but also to find out that it was in fact a bait from a mysterious phantom ship that attacks them. So they have to survive this attack. They are very stressed, and they suddenly are captured by another mysterious phantom huge ship by the Martian army. And well, this is the reason why they thought that this technology, um, from this ship that hid from the radars, could have been only developed by the Martians, and it was fed by the fact that they were rescued by the Martians, and they did exactly the same thing. But they soon found out that this ship or this technology was not at all built by the Martians. So the whole thing, the whole mystery is, what is this thing? What is this new threat, or this new so-called threat, because that's how they see it. Uh, that is in fact some kind of, well, I'm not going to say anything else because I'm afraid that I will be
Yeah,
spoiling you
for
the details.
spoilers' sake, yeah, I agree. Like for spoilers'
Mm,
sake, wouldn't want to say much more, but yeah, there are things that are going on in the story, even very early on.
mhm,
Like the big mystery is who is the stealth ship, and where are those attacks coming from? And that's an interesting part of the story, but it's also very early. But even in episode one, they're laying the groundwork for at least what the first few seasons will be the big question, as in,
mhm,
what is that thing and what is it for and what is it doing? And that's all I'm going to say about that.
mhm. Yeah, and of course, this is a spark to conflict between these great nations, because everybody's blaming the other, and, and nobody wants to accept that they have some sort of responsibility over this new threat. So yeah, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of human conflict, and there's a lot of ships and space and stuff and technology. So it is very interesting. I really really liked it. I never heard of it until you told me about it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
First of all, thank you. Yeah, it is really good, and I'm surprised that it doesn't have more rating. I don't understand why it is so underrated.
Well, part of that is the way that it was originally marketed through the Sci-Fi Channel, because the first three seasons were shot and shown on Sci-Fi, but their business model requires that you watch it when it's live on their channel, and they get nothing
Mm,
from the streaming stuff. Which, you know,
yeah.
in the modern era, that's streaming is where it's at. So it
Mhm,
didn't fit their business model. They didn't, and the Sci-Fi Channel does not have a reputation for producing great science fiction. It just doesn't.
mhm.
You know, it has a reputation for making. Well, you know what it is, what their reputation
Yeah.
is. Um, but I
Okay.
will say, like, when I started watching this show about a year and a half ago. Oh, thank you, Fofo.
Thank you. Thank you, Fofo. People
But
with glasses rock here
yes,
and in space, and you are right. Thank you so much.
but
Mhm.
I lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, about why
Oh,
literally a year and a half ago when I started watching this show, and when we started talking about it on my channel, yeah, I don't know, in October of last year of 2019, we started talking about it because nobody was talking about this show. And
mhm,
now that's not the case. There are channels that make expense related content that are doing breakdowns of each episode, that are doing larger scale examinations of the themes and character discussions, and they're really good. it's a very popular show to do reactions to now. A lot of reaction channels
Mm.
have picked up on it, but this has really only been within the last couple of years. Um,
Yeah, I
so
believe.
while it's still underrepresented, it feels to
Mhm.
me like it is growing,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's quite good.
Yeah, well, Erin says that she's stopping she's stopping by and to say hello to us. So, hi Erin. How's
Hello,
it going?
Aaron, good
Good to
friend of
see you here.
mine.
Mhm.
I, I see several of my regulars down in your chat there.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
that's
great people.
amazing. And that's amazing, and it's more amazing because you have already talked about this topic in your channel, so it's really great that they are stopping by.
Well,
So,
as I
hi
say,
everyone.
it is my favorite show on TV right now. It's my favorite
Mhm.
science fiction show I've ever watched. I don't know if it's my favorite TV show ever, but it's definitely
Mhm.
in the conversation. It's probably in the top five. Um, yeah, I love it. I don't get tired of talking about it, and I'm really glad to see that a lot of my friends who have already discussed this show to death are here to keep it going. It is available on Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime, that's right. Actually, when it got canceled in Sci-Fi Channel, then one of the executives of Amazon Prime, who was a huge fan of the show, decided to buy it and move it to Amazon Prime. So thank you for that, whoever it was.
Yeah,
It says Betsy says here uh, that I am pretty much family.
yeah.
Yeah, we are. We are. It was a nice encounter. So now here we are talking about the Expanse. I don't know if you want to mention something more before we move to the spoiler talk.
Anything spoiler free. I will say being scientifically literate, just
Mm-hmm.
in general, is going to be a huge help for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding space is a big place, understanding that it takes time when you send a message, even in space, because of the
Mm-hmm.
distances involved. It is not the instantaneous communication like we get here on Earth. It takes a long time for a message
Mm-hmm.
to get from Jupiter to Earth, 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Um, so and then things like what it's like to live in low gravity and what that means for the way they design ships. And I've heard people say things like, well, flip and burn is kind of a famous phrase that they use in the show where you point towards where you want to go and you accelerate and accelerate and accelerate so that you can create artificial gravity. Then when
Mm-hmm.
you're halfway there, you stop, you turn around, and you go slower and slower and slower. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I've heard people say, "Well, why don't they just put the engines on swivels? They can clearly do that." I'm like, "Yes, they could, but then you have to build your
Uh-huh.
ships where the ceiling turns into the floor."
Yeah. Yeah.
And why aren't there guns on turrets? Well, that's when you have an off-center point of force applied, it's going to send your ship spinning. And yeah, there's actually really good reasons for why everything is designed the way it is, and the people that inhabit the world understand that. It's just beautifully done the way they make sure they get their science right, and it rewards
Mhm.
its viewers for understanding the science ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. That is something. There are many details that tell you that this series was written with some scientific, some real scientific knowledge in
It's
hand.
not perfect. It is not
Uh huh.
perfect,
Yeah, and it's
but
not perfect, but yeah, it shows in the storytelling. And here Fofo says that he has heard that from scientists that they treat the show really well when it comes to science fiction, and it is because of that. And I also want to thank Amy Blackfire for for those for that lovely message right there. Thank you very much for your support. You really are a great friend, and thank you for stopping by.
She is a fine example of the HBD fam, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
love her to pieces. Great, she got a great channel of her own too.
Yes, yes. Go visit her channel. Uh, she also does these kinds of streamings and talks about a lot of other a lot of similar topics, but with some other more academic perspective. So it's very interesting. So stop by her channel. So okay, spoiler
Oh,
talk.
spoiler talk. Uh,
Spoiler talk.
can I just ask you a question before we start?
Okay,
Who's
sure.
your favorite character after 3 seasons?
After three seasons, well, my favorite character is Christian Avasarala.
This is a fine choice.
Yes, she is a wonderful, brilliant woman, and like you said, she has a great moral. She has great morals. I mean, she her ways are morally questionable, but her intentions are good.
Hmm.
So that's what makes it a really great character. I really love her, and I love her outfits. I really have to say that.
Yeah, of course. Like you cannot say Christian Avasarala and not say wardrobes at some point.
Yeah,
Shortly.
yeah. I mean, they add so much to the character, and well, you know that she's well, she's a wealthy, privileged woman who has been in the politics business for a long time, but and she's incredibly smart. She is like 4 moves ahead from everybody else, but still she does makes mistakes. So that's one of the things that I really like about her. And I really love how she puts the needs of everyone. Well, she really thinks about everything. She really thinks about everything, about the consequences of every single action that she takes. So it's awesome. It's
And she's
awesome.
not a
And go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought you were done. I just wanted to say she's not afraid to go toe to toe with people. The way that she
Mhm,
brings Jules Pierre Mao into their office, and she's got Jules Pierre and Aaron Wright sitting there, and she knows and they know, but they're still playing the game of where they've got the mask on, and she talks about raining down hellfire on him and all of that stuff. It's
mhm,
just and how she's not afraid to tell anyone exactly what
mhm.
she thinks.
Yes, because she has that privilege. She has that power.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it awesome. Which is your favorite character?
¿Cómo se dice en español murder snuggles?
Uh,
Amos
Amos.
Burton, whose
Yeah,
nickname in
he's
the
one of
fan
my
community
favorites.
is Murder Snuggles. And
Murder.
yeah, he is my favorite character. He was not after season one. I was still on the Christian train.
Abrazos asesinos. I don't know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I was still on the Christian train as my favorite after one season. But
Uh-huh.
as we began to dig into his more complicated psychology and his ethical, moral view of the world,
Mhm,
I just became fascinated by the way his brain worked,
mhm.
and watching his character grow and change over time. Yeah, he's my favorite.
Yeah.
Of course,
He.
there's not a bad character on the show. Christian is great. Bobby is
Mhm,
way up there. Um,
mhm.
and I won't spoil anything, but in season 5, Naomi is making a strong case to join my like top characters list. She's so good in season 5.
Well, to be fair, everyone has a lovable side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is really hard to pick a favorite. But if I had to pick one, well, my first choice would be Christian versus Avasarala. I love saying Avasarala, so just gonna go ahead and say Avasarala all the time.
It's a nice name.
It's a nice name. Yeah. And but my second favorite would be Amos. Completely Amos. He is so complex. He's the kind of character that you, well, for us, the Spanish speaking audience that is here right now and has watched or has listened to my good friend's podcast, Leyendas Legendarias, Legendary Legends. They talk about mystery and true crime and that sort of stuff with a comedy side. Um, they they tell you a lot. They talk a lot about well, serial killers
Sure.
and how serial killers are made. And you see a lot of this in Amos, but Amos, the difference is that Amos didn't choose that path. But when he is triggered, he goes on a killer train mode and can't really stop when I mean, he really lets show his dark side. So it is really cool. But he, like I said, he didn't choose that path. That makes him a functional
Psychopath.
uh psychopath, a functional psychopath that is on his way to redeem himself. They don't really talk about his past much, but you can really put the pieces together and see that he really had a horrible
You will
childhood.
get a little bit more in season 4 about his past, and you'll get more in season
Mhm,
5. So, and
mhm,
again, this is just the first 3, so I won't say much. You're right. They do spoon feed you a little bit of stuff, and everything you get sounds like, oh, that sounds like it's bad. That sounds like it sucked. Um,
mhm,
yeah. There is a short story, because of course these are based off of books.
mhm,
This television show is based off of a book series, but there are also accompanying short stories that are outside the main books. One of them that deals with Amos's past, called The Churn, which he literally
mhm,
references that concept of the churn in the show a couple of times. Um, so his past is known, and if anybody here wants to go read that, listen to it on audio, the audio is on YouTube. Um, it's probably what 2.5 hour listen. It's very good and very interesting, and it makes you understand Amos a little bit better. But if you
mhm.
don't want that, that's okay. The show is giving you what you need to know as you need to know it as well.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry if you suddenly hear some screams, that those would be my children going wild because it is close to their bedtime, so they get wild a little.
Hmm.
little. Mhm. Okay, so Amos. Oh, he. But one of the things that I found most interesting about Amos is that he feels drawn towards morally strong people and
Like,
learns from them.
or at least allows them to guide his actions. And you're right.
Yes.
It's always he doesn't have his own. Well, he's got to have his own moral compass because he can recognize it in someone else.
Hmm.
Because he can look at someone like Naomi or Holden, or in season 3, he's got Anna,
Hmm.
and he's got it with Prax as well. He recognizes
Yes.
these are good people. I should let them help me make choices in my life. Um, no,
Yeah.
that's season 5. Never mind. I'm yeah,
Okay.
and
My husband. Well, sorry. Go ahead.
no, please.
Okay. Well, my husband pointed out something about him that mm, was interesting. Is that oh my goodness, I forgot. I just forgot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me try to remember what he said. Uh, because it was very interesting and very point with what we're saying right now. But well, never mind. I really am very forgetful, so sorry. Sorry about that. But it will come. It will come later. It will come later.
But
Oh yeah, yeah. And now I remembered. Maybe this is what makes him the highest moral character in the show, because he is aware that he is not that he doesn't have this standards, or I don't know how to put it, but he is aware of his own issues, and he
hmm
tries to and this is the reason why he sticks to people with great morals, because he wants to learn from them. He wants to understand why they think the way they think, and like you said, guy, his actions, while the rest of the characters think that they are good, generally think that they are good, and they have uh and that they're right.
but
And
but
Amos
Amos
is
knows he's not. Yeah.
uh-huh. Hmm. Hmm. So yeah, this is one of the reasons that I really love his character. Well, I really love this character. And another favorite would be Miller, Josephus
Oh yeah.
Miller,
Fantastic character. What,
played
take take.
by
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
sorry,
There you
played by
go.
Thomas Jane himself, the Punisher himself. I didn't notice that it was him until I started googling the show, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, it is him!" I just couldn't believe it. But and maybe it's because he's really skinny in this show. But there's a reason why he's skinny. Belters are skinny.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. They don't have that gravity squishing them down, and they also are likely malnourished. A lot of them,
Hmm.
so they
Hmm.
don't have the opportunity to develop a large frame.
Hmm. As Amos would.
Right. Amos is not a belter.
Amos is not a belter. Amos is from the earth, as well
Yeah.
as Holden. And well, I do have some love for Alex. I really have some love for Alex.
Yeah.
He's a lovable person. He's a great pilot. And yeah, so these are basically the main characters.
Yeah. I mean,
Holden. Uh-huh.
you're right.
What?
The entire
Uh-huh.
crew of the Rocinante is fantastic, and I also love
Mhm.
that they have representation of Earth and Mars and the belt on there. Um,
Mhm.
and as you say, Alex as a character, um, there's a lot of people whose lives have taken sideways turns on them, who have to find a way to live with the regrets of the decisions they've made. And
Mhm.
while most of the time Alex is just kind of a fun character who gets to say smarmy things in a Texas accent, sometimes he does have to face his past in a way.
Mhm.
And the it might be season 4 when he talks a little more candidly about it, but it's it's heartbreaking, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. That's why I really want to hug him and say,
yeah, but I wouldn't recommend hugging him. Um,
it's like, you're gonna be okay, man. You're gonna be okay.
yeah, it's
Believe me.
unfortunate that he will not be in season 6.
Oh man.
Um, yeah, that actor has kind of you may not be aware of it because you're not in the fan community, but that
Mhm.
actor has had some pretty gross things come up about him, and the show has
Oh
let him go. There's no reason not
man.
to continue to watch the show. There are a lot of fantastic people that work on it, and there's no reason that you have to hate the character that he portrays. But
Hmm.
yeah, and I know this isn't the topic of this podcast, but yes, that actor has he kind of got his Me Too moment, and
Hmm.
but on the upside, the creators of the show took it very seriously, and he will not be returning.
Yeah, well, I will be hugging the character, not the actor.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, well, it really is a great display of great characters because Bobby Gunny, she is awesome as well. And to be honest, I didn't like it. I didn't like her at first
I think you're supposed
because
to not like her at first.
yes, because well, a little background. The people from Mars are a very militarized community because well, life in Mars is tough, and they are well. The dream is to turn Mars into a second Earth. So part of the resentment that they have towards the Earthers is that will we take everything for granted, and basically we're spoiled and privileged. But when when Bobby finds out, I mean, she realizes that life on Earth is also tough, can also be tough for people. During that Onu visit, uh, she's she sort of changes her perspective, and the fact that she is aided by Avasarala herself, uh, and enlightened by Avasarala herself. So this changes her, and she goes from being the strongest, most reliable sergeant from the Martian army to the rebel and deserter that helps a big figure from the Earth, a big leader from the Earth to some goal, to accomplish some
Right.
goal.
Like,
Hmm.
Bobby is a true patriot to Mars, even though she doesn't
Hmm.
always follow the orders given to her, because she is always, always trying to do what she thinks is the right thing for Mars. If that, most of the time that was following her orders, but
Hmm.
she doesn't want her she doesn't want her entire society to go to war based on false ideas, based
Hmm.
on morally corrupt reasoning, and she served with certain people. Those people died in the line of duty, and she was told to just suck it up. And I'm sorry, that's a tough pill to swallow for anyone. So while some Martians might call her a traitor or whatever, and she definitely had to flee the Martian embassy and get political asylum and all that. Um, she's still very much pro Martian, even when
Hmm.
she's in that situation.
Yeah, but she gets to understand that the Martian ways are a little bit too tough or a little bit too stiff, you know.
Right.
S- and I love that she's being flexible and she bends her ways and she adapts to the situation, even though well she's a true Martian and a patriot. And but yeah, she is actually the one that believes in James Holden during the season 3 finale, and well, she's basically awesome. So, and she develops a great relationship with Alex's character because they are both Martians, and they're both the only Martians in the Rocinante.
Yeah.
uh, the
Oh yeah.
Rocinante, for those who don't know, is the ship from the main characters, and
There
that
you
is
go.
yeah, that's
That's like the pinup art that they paint on the outside.
yeah, painted by Amos himself. And
So one of the things that this show does wrong is that it
Mhm.
translates Rocinante as workhorse, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that that's not what that means. I don't know what Rocinante means, but I know it does not mean workhorse. But
Well, it
it was the name of the plow horse that Don Quixote
yes,
rode, but it doesn't
yes, which
mean workhorse.
how James Holden was a fan.
Right.
He wrote he was a fan of the Quixote book
Well, he is Don
when he was
Quixote. He's a man
yes.
out of place, out of time,
Mhm.
trying to do what he's always feels is the right thing and never backing down, even if he's jousting with a windmill.
Right, right. And one interesting detail about the first season is that most of the, if not all, of the names of the episodes are taken from Don Quixote. So
Yeah.
and it was weird to see in the second season that they stopped doing that. But yeah, I think it was more. I think that that theme was stronger during the first season.
It is. But I think that's like there are other things that come in to influence later
Hmm.
that have a stronger influence in later seasons. And I think a lot of that sort of drawing parallels to Don Quixote lets us understand Holden
Hmm.
in a really intimate and deep way, and we'll need to because of how important he is to the story going forward.
Hmm.
So, drawing those parallels between this sort of like half crazy, idealistic person who always tries to do the right thing no matter what is important for Holden, but primarily because he is the primary point of view that we'll have for all the goings on in the future.
Yeah. Well, let's just stop a little bit to say hi to Cam Cam. Thank you for your support, and we hope that we get you hooked into the Expanse. So you really have to check that out. So thank you for stopping by.
Hi,
Yeah,
Cam
well,
Cam. Nice to see you.
I would say that James is not my favorite character. He's a little bit annoying in some ways, but I do have some love for him. I mean, he's he's a hero. He's a hero of the story.
Yeah,
So
he's
it is natural that you sometimes don't feel so sympathetic towards him, but yeah, you can see that he really has good intentions, and he really has maybe the way that he does things is not as lovely as everyone else's, which is ironic because everyone else is not as good at to a certain point. But yeah, I mean, for example, Amos lets you see things to from the real human perspective. I mean, you're not a bad guy, but you're not a good guy, and you still want to do the right thing.
I've heard him called Space Jon Snow.
It is.
And
Yes, and it
he is
actually
in a lot of
I
ways.
was about to mention that actually both actors look a lot alike.
Holden is
I
much
mean,
taller than Jon Snow.
yes, yes, like about 2 inches
At
taller,
least I think.
at least at least 2 inches taller. I believe they are the same age, both actors,
I
but they do look
think
a
I'm going
lot
to Google
alike.
it now.
Yeah, I well, Kit Harington was born in 1986, and Steven Strait, I guess it was 1986 or 1984 or something, but it was around the mid 80s. He's about my age.
1986.
Yes,
Yep.
both are the same age. They were separate at birth, and they play two awful a lot similar characters. So it's really interesting.
Right.
Hmm.
The thing is, I actually find Holden to be a better character in general than Jon Snow. At least
Hmm.
better than the Jon Snow we get in TV. Maybe not better than the book one. Hard to
Hmm.
say. I haven't read the Expanse books either, but Holden has this arc where he does the right thing, he does the right thing, he does the right thing, and then he gets blinded to everything else because of the way he focuses in on
Mm,
destroying the protomolecule, no matter the cost. Um, and
and
that manifests in late season two. Is Alex having to say something to the effect of, "We have to stop chasing this protomolecule hybrid and go and help our friends, our family right now." And it's like he has this moment where he realizes how far gone he's become.
mhm. Yeah, he
And
has a focus problem.
there's um, early on he's so at odds with Amos most of the time. Pulls a gun
Mhm.
on him, points it at the back of his head. Well, that's something they've actually done to each other in season one. But
Yeah,
by late season two, when they're back on Ganymede's station and they need to get information, and Amos takes this, I think it's a can of chicken, and starts beating the crap out of this guy.
mhm,
And I think Naomi moves to stop Amos, but Holden won't let her. He stops Naomi and lets Amos keep going, which is a real, like, it's that up and down of, he's still trying to do what he thinks is right, but his methods keep getting darker and darker and darker.
mhm.
And that is something that I think continues with this character, is that ride of, like, trying to find, is this the bridge that's too far? Have I gone too far in trying
Yeah.
to chase down my
You know, for a moment, I thought that maybe James Holden was going to have a similar arc to um again I forgot to Rick Grimes in The Walking Dead.
Okay.
But I'm glad they didn't quite go that way. I mean, they let you see the lows of James, which makes him an interesting character, of course.
Mhm.
But then he comes back and he realizes what is most important for him, which is his family or his crew, the crew from the Rocinante, and and it's really great. I mean, sometimes yes, it could be he could be annoying. He could be the
Sure.
most annoying of all the characters out there, but you understand why. So that's what makes him sort of lovable too.
I
And
think
well,
that I think that's true of every character, though. Like, they have their moments where they're annoying, or they do something you're like, why, oh, that's not the right move. But
mhm,
when they make those choices, you still understand why they made
mhm,
those choices. Naomi gives lies to her crew and gives the protomolecule to Fred Johnson. And it's
mhm,
like, why did you do that? I mean, actually, not why did you do that. I wish you hadn't done that. I understand why she did it.
mhm,
I disagree with it, but it's not like I'm like, that's just it makes no sense. Well, actually, it makes a lot of sense, even
mhm.
though I disagree. And that's true of every character, good guy and bad guy, that this show has.
Yeah, he loves coffee.
Oh, I'm going to show my lovely coffee cup. You can get one just like this.
Uh-huh.
Threadless.sanrixia.com. Yeah, advertising my friend's stuff.
Go ahead, go ahead. Uh, yeah, well, like we said, we have a lot of great characters here. We haven't really talked much about Josephus Miller, the
Yeah,
detective that goes wrong.
taking a noir style detective and
Mhm.
plopping him in the middle of your sci-fi story is a really interesting way to start it out.
Yeah, with that
And,
hat and
and
all.
yeah, and like, the hat is such a, I mean, people are like, "Oh, nice hat," but they don't think about, like, he literally has no reason to wear a hat. It
Mhm,
doesn't rain on Ceres. It doesn't keep the sun out of your off your head on Ceres. Everything is, artificial there,
mhm,
and it actually clearly marks him as being not a belter, even though he is a belter.
mhm,
Wearing a hat is not something belters do at all. They
Hmm.
spend so much of their lives in zero G that a hat would just like that would just float off their head
Hmm.
and it'd be in the way. And so it's an affectation that makes him, and I think he does it in order to separate himself from the Belters because he doesn't want to be a member of that oppressed class. So he's
Hmm.
taken on the trappings of the oppressor.
Yeah, and he's judged for that.
He is.
Hmm. He's judged for that and pointed out, but he really doesn't care. He doesn't care much, and that's one of the things that I really love about him, and that he has he's really smart, and he knows how to handle these people because he grew up with them, but he still doesn't feel part of them, which is, I don't know. It's ironic because he ended up being a belter hero
Hmm.
after the Venus incident, and but but I love the way that he talks. I love the way that he talks, and I love the interaction that he had with James, because we basically well, when every guy that gets on the Rocinante, it's basically an alpha male trying to get a place there, and
Yeah.
they eventually accept that Holden is the leader here. But we see that conflict with Amos, and we see that conflict with Miller, and we even saw that a little glimpse of that conflict with Bobby, even though she's a girl. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Bobby can be the alpha, whatever the hell she wants.
Hmm. Yeah. But when they eventually accept that James is the captain and you have to do what he wants or what he orders.
And
Um,
and while he makes some really boneheaded decisions, like he arrives at those from a place of a strong moral and ethical center. So
mhm,
he is always doing what he thinks is the best for the most people,
mhm.
which is why
Yeah.
he. I mean, and as Leaf points out, she said she likes Holden more than most people do. He gets so much hate. He does because
Mhm,
he makes a lot of choices that people are like, well, that turned out bad. Yeah, but
mhm.
like, and they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but Miller is, or not Miller, Holden is doing those things out of a genuine idealism.
Yeah. Well, I guess if we compare the role of Holden and translate it into a corporate environment, well, Holden would be the project manager who gets all the crap from everyone and tries to do something good out of it.
You are right about that.
Yeah. Hmm. So I guess it's only logical that he's not the most beloved character out there, but still, he's a great character. That doesn't make it a bad character. Actually, it makes it great.
Yeah,
You really need to. It is impossible to love everyone at the same level.
sure.
Hmm.
Well, and the thing is, I have Holden, I feel like, is written as the self insert white guy. You
Hmm.
know, uh, he he is meant to represent me in the story,
Hmm.
or when I read the book, I'm meant to identify with him so that I can be the hero in the story. Um, and it's a tired trope, as Amy points out, of
Hmm.
the white male savior. Um, but at least he is still an interesting character, regardless
Yeah.
of his being a white male savior character or a self-insert white guy character.
Hmm.
He still has an interesting arc. He's got interesting relationships with the rest of his crew that
Hmm.
evolve over time. Um, yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But but given the tropes surrounding him, he is a little less interesting to me as well, because that type of character is just done in almost every story you have. He's done well here, but I've seen it so many times.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to be honest, I don't really have that much trouble with that. Well, I, of course, prefer a hero that is more alike to me,
Sure.
but I'm not bothered by but saying this. I mean, it would be great, of course, that we see some other people as the hero of the story, but well,
But well,
it doesn't make it a bad story though. So that's why
but
I'm not.
there are some, and especially as like the seasons go on, we get
Mhm,
new characters every season, and the show does a really good job, at least past season one, of starting to expand the representation.
mhm,
Bobby comes in season two. That actress is a Pacific Islander. Kara
mhm,
G, who plays drummer, is Canadian, but she's Native American from Canadian, from
mhm.
Canadian
From
from
Canada.
Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm. I
there's
have. I really have to say that I'm upset that I haven't seen a Latino up to season 3. How come?
a solid point.
Yes. I mean, it's only logical that the largest so-called minority, because it's not a minority, it's actually that majority uh, uh race, I guess. I don't like that word, but uh, Asians. It's only logical that you see a lot of Asians right there, because it's a large population, but Latins are also a large population, and they are very misrepresented in the Expanse so far. I don't know if season 4 or season 5 do a better job at this, but well, at least we get to see many other non-white
It would be
people.
nice to have some more
Hmm.
Latin people in there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we exist.
You
we
do.
are a, we are we are a huge part of the
Um,
world
is
population.
it might not be the best, but Diogo might be Latin.
Diogo is Latin. He's Brazilian, I guess.
Okay.
But I but
And
I
there's
mean,
going to be a lot more of the belters in later seasons. As you see more belters, I feel like a lot more of them are. I mean, it's you can't just tell by looking at a person,
mhm.
and
I
especially
mean,
when they're putting on an accent, a fake accent for a TV show, you can't necessarily know. But there are
yeah.
definitely a lot of people of color among the belters.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Eduardo says he's that we are. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we are. Mhm. But one thing about the Latin American community is that we are very diverse,
Mm-hmm.
because well, some are some are white, and the in Latin American TV you see a lot of white people, which is
Right.
not the majority, but well, you see a lot of white people, but we have people of color, of every color
Of every
as
color.
well, and we have Asian Latins as well. So when you see a Latin in a on a TV show, and and they don't speak, you will know unless you know the name of the actor,
Right.
because
Eh,
some of us can be very racially ambiguous, like
right.
myself.
Sure.
Mhm,
But my mom brings up a good point. The show was shot in Toronto, Canada, which
mhm,
probably does not have a sizable Latino community.
mhm.
Um, so, like getting extras, it is what it is. It's going to be hard to get a
Yeah.
lot of Latin extras in Toronto. But if you're
Mhm,
hiring professional actors to come in and play named character parts, you should have.
mhm.
I'm with you. Like the show could use some more Latinos,
Yeah,
but they
but
do a
then
good
again,
job overall.
yeah, But then again, if we don't speak, if we don't open our mouths, you may not know where we are from.
Right.
Like Amy says here about his friend. But yeah, it would be great. It would be great to have more Latins in the show, aside from Diogo,
Well, hold
which
on.
actually makes what?
Hold on. Somebody wrote in the chat. Mm. All right,
For
please go
those of
ahead.
you who are only listening to this show through Spotify and such,
I'm
Steven
flipping my
just
hair. Yes.
Steven is just he's right now doing a hair commercial,
Yeah.
a hair product commercial, because someone in the chat said that his hair is beautiful. So yeah, now you
So
know.
thank you very much.
Now you know the joke. And well, we haven't talked about Naomi. Naomi is also a great character.
She
She
really
is
is.
not, yeah, she really is. She is not in my most beloved list, but she really is loved. She actually is loved. I
Yeah.
mean, I love every character. I love every character for some different reasons. Some are more lovable than others, but yeah, she really is a great character, and she is the engineer of the Rocinante.
She is the smartest person in the room.
Yes.
In every room she walks into, except for that one time when she meets Christiana Sarala. So
Oh
then,
yeah, that's.
like, that's a toss up. They have different
Mhm,
kinds of intelligence,
mhm,
but she is brilliant. And I'm with you. Like, she's a character that I've enjoyed the whole time, but
mhm,
she didn't climb. But she was never in my like top three.
mhm,
But season 5 is making a strong. She has a lot to do in season 5, and it's very very good. Okay, I keep wanting to talk about season 5. I'm not going to do it. In the first 3 seasons, she is our window into understanding the belt and the belters better, understanding their point of view and why
yeah.
you know
Without the extremist point of view.
right, without the extremism, correct. So like
Without,
the but to be able to speak about the oppression that her people have lived under without, I mean, she doesn't trust Earth, she doesn't trust Mars, and with good reason. But that doesn't mean
mhm,
she can't trust an Earther or a Martian.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, it is understandable. Me, as a Mexican, as part of a large Latin American community that has uh, suffered from this oppression by the hands of our people, uh, and others.
Sure.
It is related. It is a very relatable character. She really is relatable, and I can also relate to the suffering of motherhood of I mean, losing a kid. Losing a kid. Every parent can relate to that. But we don't really. But one of the things that I would love to see from her is her story, or see a little bit of payoff regarding that aspect of her life. Because, well,
Just keep
I can see
watching
that
the
you're
show.
just.
Just
I can
keep
see
wa-
that you want. I can see that you want to say something, but you won't say it.
I
So
won't
yeah.
say it. I'm not going to tell anybody about anything. Just keep watching. This show gives you what you want, just not always, and it gives it to you when you need it, not necessarily exactly when you want it.
Mhm,
Like, you will see what the show needs you to see
mm.
in time. But if that's what you want, I will just encourage you to go ahead and keep watching.
I will. I will, because I'm really hooked and I really like the series. So, regarding the whole plot, now that
Mhm.
we covered most of the main characters, um, oh my goodness, what a ride! Because we go from well, to be honest, during the first three episodes, or four, not three episodes. During the first three episodes, I was like, I've seen this. I've seen this before. I mean, conflict between two great nations, and yeah, everybody pointing out at each other. But then the proto happens, and oh my
Yeah.
goodness, it really changes everything between everyone, because now everybody, of course, is looking to use it for their own good, but they don't really understand what this thing is, and they don't really understand that they, right now at the point that they are at, it may put them in danger. And well, this whole moral dilemma around the proto, because for in order to understand it, you really have to sacrifice some things, but those sacrifices are not morally correct, are not okay to, because you basically have to sacrifice people in order to understand this thing,
Yes.
and that's what it makes it really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's why most of us would look at what Protogen is doing and just be like, no, that's wrong. Like you can't just say, well, we're going to kill 100,000 people.
Mhm.
Um, most of us would look at that and say, it doesn't matter the benefit of the outcome, just agreeing to kill 100,000 people
Mhm.
so we can learn more about this thing. Nobody is going to find that to be morally or ethically correct. I
Mhm.
don't say nobody. Most of us would
Nobody
not find
is.
that to be.
Nobody.
I bet nobody watching this stream would find that to be morally and ethically correct.
Mhm.
But
I know.
even in so doing, there is a point where I can't remember the scientist's name, but Holden and his crew and Miller, they go to the space station and they capture a bunch of scientists. And they've got this one scientist who was talking about why they're doing what they're doing. And Miller then shoots the guy, and you find out later that he shoots him not because he disagreed with him, but that he was starting to sway him. He was starting to change
Mhm.
his mind. He's like, no, this is, I don't want to go that far. I don't want to give him the chance even.
Mhm.
Oh, Jules Pierre. Yeah. We should
Yeah,
talk about
speaking of
Jules
the
Pierre.
proto-molecule.
Right.
Speaking of the proto-molecule, we have to, of course, talk about Jules Pierre Mao, which is pretty much the so-called villain of the story, because I say so-called because he's doing really bad actions, really bad stuff, but his purpose may not be that bad, because he wants to understand this thing. He wants to understand the proto-molecule, but of course he's not doing it in a good way, because he doesn't shred. I mean, he doesn't fret to sacrifice his own daughter in order to reach this goal. That's what makes it a villain. But he's an interesting villain.
He is, because he is not motivated by profit. I mean,
Hmm.
some of it he is, but he's, I
Yeah.
think, motivated by a desire to understand, because he perceives the protomolecule as a potential threat or a precursor to a threat. Because it is, okay, we're in full spoiler territory. You know, it is alien technology of some kind that we just don't understand. It breaks the laws of physics occasionally, and in ways that we don't know why it does what it does or even what it's for. At the
Hmm.
end of where you've left the story off for this podcast at the end of season 3, like, it has done things,
Hmm.
crazy things, and it's changed the game for humanity forever in a way that there's no turning back from.
Hmm.
But we still don't know what it's for. We still don't know why it's done all of this.
Right.
So the fact that there's all these systems out there that humans can now travel to, like,
Hmm.
that's going to, everything that's ever happened to any human ever has happened in this solar system, and now that's not going to be true for much longer.
Yeah.
And there is no There's no going back from that.
Hmm.
So, but I think he just wants to. I think he is motivated primarily for a desire to fight against what he perceives to be a threat from the protomolecule.
Yes, that's the reason why he turns them into. Well, he creates the hybrids as a weapon. As a weapon.
Or as a way to allow humans to exist in the vacuum of space, to be resistant to all the dangers of exploring the space on a wider scale.
Yeah. I mean, it is worth mentioning that Earth is still the only planet with an atmosphere, um, a livable atmosphere.
Yeah,
So everybody else has to live under a dome or under a station with oxygen, uh,
yeah, and it's
or
not just the atmosphere; it's also the magnetosphere,
Mhm.
because that the magnetic field around the Earth deflects a lot of radiation away that never even gets to the atmosphere, and then the atmosphere blocks a lot as well.
Mhm.
Mars doesn't have that, so they have to build the radiation up. So actually, that's one of the reasons that Ganymede is used to grow so much of the food for the belt, because Ganymede actually does have its own magnetic field, not
Mhm.
nearly as strong as Earth's, but it does help protect the plants. Plants are more resistant to radiation, but that's why it's the breadbasket of the belt, because Ganymede actually does have its own magnetosphere.
Mhm. And I want a little detail that I really loved was when that visit from the Martians to UN to the UN, when we see the badass, strong, and mighty Bobby struggling to walk on the Earth,
Yeah,
on Earth's gravity. Yeah, it was really lovely to see
it really
because
was. And one of the
it's the
things that
first time we see her as a vulnerable being. Hmm.
you're right, because she's portrayed as basically like
A killing machine,
right, a
a
killing machine,
human.
a god of war, so to speak.
Yeah,
And it's one
yeah.
of her more human moments. But to me, her most human moment, at least in those first few um, episodes, comes when after she sneaks out and she makes her way to the ocean.
Mhm.
Because I'm going to assume that Bobby has the same ethnic background that Frankie Adams, the actress that plays her, does. And
Mhm.
she is, as Amy says, she's a Pacific Islander, and this is Bobby seeing an ocean, which is for the first time, which is somebody who is, I don't know if you would call her Polynesian, Micronesian, but as somebody from a Pacific island, the ocean is a huge part of her cultural heritage.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, Amy went right there along with me. It's just one of those moments, character moments, where you can see her take off her shoes and get her feet into the ocean for the first time, and there's this little hint of a smile, and there's this little bit of like nervousness in her. It's a beautiful character moment, which is not something most badass soldiers get to have.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes her human.
Yes.
And when she was just portrayed as a, like we said, as a killing machine, this makes her human, and this makes us connect with her. It's
Hmm.
the first time that you get to like her. And then Avasarala appears and explains that what she saw is actually real when everyone else was denying it because of their own political intentions.
Politics, yeah.
Yeah. And she takes the most badass decision ever. And she basically deserts from the MCRN, and now she is just Just her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
After the end of season 3, yeah,
Well,
she did go.
she's back in the military, yes, but she's still struggling with it. But
She is.
yeah, but because I believe that she is now that she saw another reality and another way of thinking apart from the Martian thinking, on she she changed her point of view, and you see her struggling with it with her mates, with her soldier
Yeah,
mates. Mhm.
and so the authors of the books, Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, I think they understand human nature very, very well.
Mhm.
Uh, every one of these characters has those kind of moments where they're allowed to feel, where they're doing something that doesn't necessarily push the plot forward, but it makes them feel like a real person who has their
Mhm.
own desires, their own little quirks, like the way that Alex listens to country music all the time.
Mhm.
Just not not every show gets those right. They all, a lot of shows will give those character moments as a way to drive the plot.
Mhm.
Whereas I think with the Expanse, they're just allowed to live in those moments sometimes.
Yeah.
Like James
And yet,
Holden and his love of
uh,
coffee.
yeah,
Like that
it's just
doesn't have anything to do with the story.
character building. It's just character building.
Hmm.
And that this is actually, like, guys, like we've been saying, it is one of the most wonderful things about this series, that despite being a sci-fi show where the technology advancements would be the feature or the main character, we have a very human story and
Yes.
focused on them, focused on the people that live this story.
Yeah, and when something goes wrong, like they have to find a real solution. They just can't reverse the polarity on the deflector coil and eject the antimatter into the subspace stream and everything's fine. They
Mhm.
Star Trek is the worst at that. You write a few sentences of technobabble and everything's back to being fine. The Expanse doesn't do that.
Mm.
Yeah, if something is going wrong, you need to find a real solution, and a
Yeah.
solution that the audience would look at and go, "Yep, that makes sense to me."
And
Um, that's
every
particularly.
time
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
every time that every main character is in danger, you actually believe that they are in danger. And
Yep.
now that we know at the end of season 3 that the program article is not necessarily something bad, but it's not something good either. That it doesn't really want anything from us as humans, but it's just there trying to survive or trying to, I don't know, go on. Again, I mean, it's not during the first the first three seasons, but right before the end, we think of this thing as an enemy that wants to attack us,
Mm-hmm.
as a threat. But it's actually more like a Lovecraftian kind of threat that doesn't really want us to harm us, but it's
It
just doing what
doesn't.
it's doing.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
like it's not that it wants to harm us. It's that
Mhm.
if it harmed us, it wouldn't even know or care.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's so far
yeah.
beyond our ability to understand that being destroyed by it would be. I mean, as Holden says near the end of season 3, it doesn't think about us. It doesn't care about us any more than we care about ant hills we pave over when we make a road.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Uh, and it really adds to the story because, well, the way it changes things, the way that it changes what it makes us believe at first, it's very smart performed
Hmm.
because it doesn't rely on shock value for the sake of shock value. It is actually very smart plot development. It's one of the things that I love the most. That way we get to know a little bit more each time about the protomolecule, about every character's intentions. And for example, one of the characters that I really liked and I really enjoyed during the second half season of the third season is Ashford. It's Ashford.
What a fantastic character Ashford
Ashford.
is.
Yes. Oh my
And
goodness. You
it,
hate it at first because you know that he's a pirate and you know that he's an opiate extremist. I don't know.
close enough. Yeah,
You
extremist is the right word.
extremist. Yes, extremist. Thank you for that.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
and and you know that maybe his intentions towards a drummer are not okay because he wants to take her ship for him. But then we get to see that he's actually right in many of the things that he's saying. And then,
Yeah.
of course, we have that golden whole scene with drummer and him when they are stuck on and in danger.
This is like a my a miniature example of what the story does on the big scale as a whole. Asford shows up, and you're right. You're like, I don't trust him.
Mhm,
He's here, and he's against her, and he's saying all this stuff to make himself look good. And while all of that is true, none of that actually makes him a bad guy.
mhm,
Even when he's completely at odds with Holden, you understand why.
mhm.
Like you can follow his thought process and understand, how he gets from the information he has to we have to basically condemn everyone here to death, myself included, so that we can save everybody else out there.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong to have that thought process.
Mhm. He's a survivor.
He is.
He's
Well,
a survivor the way that the protomolecule is a survivor itself.
but he really does. He is one of those antagonists that you can just fully understand. Like, there are people that might even agree with him completely, and I wouldn't say that they're necessarily all that wrong. It's, I think he is
Like
meant,
Ross.
right.
Mhm,
I think that he is meant to, season three is about one of the themes. Oh, well, we'll go with the second half of season three, which would be the book three stuff. A lot of it,
mhm,
at least from my point of view, is about using violence as a reaction to those things are are obstacles to you. Um,
mhm,
it gets tried to be done to Holden. Clarissa Mao does it. It happens on a large scale through Ashford. Um, and it's always about reaching for violence for when you're left not knowing what to do. And
mhm.
but Holden articulates that very clearly at the end of the season, saying, "Can't we just try something else for once, please?" And
Oh,
Ashford's response to that is more violence, shoot them.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable because it's a very human impulse.
it is.
I would say it would be a primate instinct.
Oh yeah,
Not real. Yeah. I mean, it's really in our core. So it's hard to fight up against it because it's our reptilian brain acting out.
yeah. That
Once
fight or
once
flight.
it yes, and once it gets in the way, nothing will ever stop it. I mean, have you ever tried to stop a tantrum from a toddler? That is exactly what is happening. the reptilian brain acting out, and it's
Yeah,
reacting to
sleeper
fear.
hold. If you get the arm right around the neck and apply pressure at the back of the head, they'll just fall asleep. You can try that one next time. If you do
Oh.
that, you didn't hear it from me. I'm just saying. But as I have 4 daughters, so yes, I have been through toddler tantrums more than I care to remember.
Okay, you didn't see it. You didn't see this here. I feel that I feel that I have the need to specify to some
It's a
not
joke.
so clever viewers, in case one of those is here right now. Well, Stephen is Stephen is joking.
Yes, I am joking. Please do not put your children in a sleeper hold.
But well, my point is that once that part of the brain activates, it's really hard to reason with it. So it's
Right.
only natural that we respond to fear with violence.
Uh,
But
yeah,
there
yeah,
has to be
but like
another
part
way,
of what
like
makes us human is the fact that we can respond to fear with things
exactly,
other than violence.
exactly, and that is precisely what Holden is asking. But this is in a very large scale and complex scale that doesn't necessarily fix. It's not necessarily fixed as easy as, I don't know, a tantrum or something,
Right.
or throwing a stone to I don't know, a huge beast, right? It's something more complex, but it's the same. It's the same instinct, and yeah, like you said, what makes us human is the ability to go beyond that impulse.
Right. So one of the
Okay.
things that stuck out to me when I was watching this early on, and I am no great expert about mythology, but there are names of things that get dropped throughout the story, and even my limited understanding, I still sometimes these bells go off, and my brain goes, "Hey, I recognize that." Um, Mars being militarized. Mars
Hmm.
is the god of war. AKA, Ares is the Greek, Mars is the Roman. I think I got that right.
Hmm.
Um, I love that the Amos Miller, not Amos, the Miller Julie story, Julie Mao and Miller are on Eros and crash into Venus, both
Mm.
sort of like love gods or goddesses, and it is the
Yeah.
culmination of their love story.
Mm.
The fact that the Anubis or Anubis, however you want to say it, I think both are correct. Um,
I'd say I know. Mhm.
but the Anubis being a god of the dead for the Egyptians, and it is the death of people on the Anubis that kind of starts off the story, and all those people dying there from the proto molecule.
Yeah.
It's so they've really they know the story they're telling,
Hmm.
and the fact that they can have nods to Don Quixote and mythology and real world politics. Like you can look at Mars and be like, oh, that's recognizable to me as a thing that humans might make, but you don't look at it and say that's Russia, because it's
Hmm.
not. It's not Russia, but
Hmm.
it is. It's any human state that's ever been highly militarized, be that Sparta or Cold War Russia or modern day America. Um, any militant society can be represented by Mars. Any society with huge social stratifications can be represented by Earth. So there's elements of like modern America in both Earth and Mars.
Yeah.
and the belt could stand in for literally any colonized country that ever existed ever,
Hmm.
but especially those that were more marginalized, like the Caribbean or African colonies. The way that they have this vast amount of wealth, but that wealth is extracted for the benefit of someone else. That's true of the
Yes.
belt. It's true of Africa. Um,
Yeah, and I'm gonna say something really quick about uh, well, coming from Latin America, society that has suffered a lot in the hands of dictatorships. I can really understand why it is so easy for the Belters to fall into the OPA, the this extreme views of justice. I mean, obviously they are right to demand or ask for more rights or for more, I mean, for decent human conditions to live. But it is really understandable why these people would fall for these extreme views, because it's not easy to be on the oppressed side. It really isn't easy to see that others have more than you, are better at up to a certain point, better considered than you, and that you are ignored and you are, I don't know, look look down. So when someone comes and it tells you that you are worth of every attention, that you have every right that the others have, and puts it in a which is right, which is correct, you should have the same rights, you should have the same privileges.
sure.
But it is very easy that someone with the wrong intentions say this speech to these people, to these vulnerable people, and gets them to do something that is not right. It is
Well,
easy. It's
uh,
manipulation. It's manipulation from from your vulnerabilities. It is exploiting your vulnerabilities.
everything
Vulnerability.
you said is right, but I will say, like, the one caveat I want to add to that is that the OPA is
Hmm.
is a very large organization, and not everybody who is a
Not
member.
everybody. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, the majority are not, but there
Yeah.
are radical elements that will go very, very far, and that actually becomes a bigger part of the story going forward.
And it is funny because it is very easy to make people fall into that, even though you don't really believe uh, what they're telling you. There are actual experiments about this, and how to get people into a phases kind of situation. There was a school, and there was a study in some school in the United States, where the professor started doing this experiment of getting everyone into a very um, I don't know, kind of militarized kind of group. So it, by telling them that discipline was the key, and many things, and suddenly, very soon, everyone was pointing out, and everyone that was not following the things the way
Mm.
that were invented. So this happens. This is very common. For example, with the Nazis, most of those people got involved with the Nazis because out of a need, not because they really actually believe the whole package. But regardless of that, they did what they were asked, and it's just following. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, but maybe it's something like the followers and the leaders. What kind of leader is the one you're following? Why are you following that kind of leader?
Well, and the OPA really has two main sort of leaders, it
Yes.
being Fred Johnson and Anderson Dawes.
Yeah.
And you can see that they have similar ideas,
Mhm.
similar
Well, the
things that
purpose is
drive them.
good. The purpose is good.
Yeah.
They really need to get these people to have the same rights and the same privileges that everyone else in the inner system. But the ways are the key. Fred Johnson has a very more has a more right approach. I mean,
He wants to be cooperative and to
yes,
build something better.
yes, he's not giving the us and them speech.
Right.
He's not dividing. He's trying to unite. While Doss is actually the kind of leader that divides, and this he is that you know.
Mm. You're gonna love season 5, Cecilia. Season 3 is still my favorite. Um, season 4 still really good. Did not quite beat out season 3.
Hmm.
Season 5 is trying really hard to become my favorite. There's still 2 episodes that have not aired, but it's trying really, really hard. And all of the things that we're talking about, especially from a more like the human aspect of these stories, has so much of that pays off in season 5. I just can't wait to come back and talk about that with you. I just can't wait. If you'll have me,
I'll rush. I'll rush. I'll rush.
no,
And
no,
believe
you
me,
don't
it's not
have to
that
rush.
hard. And believe me, it's not that hard to watch it in you know just
It's
devour it because
fantastic.
yes, and one of the things that is really peculiar about this series that not every series has it is that every episode feels like the season finale. It is that intense. Every episode has you like in the edge of your seat, or I don't know, tense and anxious because you don't know what's going to happen to your characters, to the characters that you love.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't,
Hmm.
and you know it's not a. If you watch a lot of TV, especially if you watch a lot of sci-fi and fantasy stuff, like you would do, like I do, you start to recognize the tropes and the storytelling beats, and you're like, I know what's going to happen next. I know what's going to happen next.
Hmm.
Trust me, for those of you who are still here and haven't seen it,
Won't.
you do not know what is happening next.
Yes, you won't know. So there's always an element of surprise and shock, but it's not an element of surprise and shock for the sake of element of surprise and shock, like the
Yeah,
way the final seasons of Game of Thrones would. Uh, but but yeah, I really, really, if you stayed here that long, even though you haven't seen the show, thank you so much. And believe us, you're not gonna regret watching this show. You're gonna.
it literally. If anybody ever and it says, "Hey, I just finished watching XYZ. I need something new," The Expanse is my go-to response for those people every time.
Mhm.
It's the best thing happening on TV right now. The characters are fantastic. Again, the representation not perfect, but still very very good.
Mhm.
Fully rounded characters who are people of color, who are women, who are queer, who are every aspect of humanity that you can think of is portrayed in this show, and nobody is portrayed as lesser.
Yes.
Um,
More importantly, everybody is portrayed to fight for equality, even though they are 4 centuries ahead of us. um, we still struggle with that, and it's only logical because we've struggled with that our whole existence as humans, and even as primates.
yeah,
They- yeah, so it is it is really really interesting. It is such a fantastic show. I really really recommend it. Believe us, Amazon is not paying us for telling you this. we wish, we wish,
yeah.
but that can tell you that this is a true, honest opinion. Any
Yeah,
final thoughts?
I don't get anything for shilling for this show,
Mm-hmm.
um, other than the opportunity to talk with other smart people about it,
Mm-hmm.
because this is one of those shows that can generate so much conversation.
Yeah, and fills you with different perspectives,
Hmm.
especially when we're both not from the same place or cultures. So yeah,
Right.
it is awesome, especially when you're talking about a show that talks about diversity and the struggles of each member of these diverse groups. Well, any final thoughts, Stephen?
Probably. Give me a second. Let me think. I'm just, I'm often blown away at how much this story keeps its foot on the gas, so to speak.
Hmm.
Like, as you said earlier, the first, what, 3 episodes or so, you're like, that's good, but I'm not hooked. And then
Hmm.
something happens, and the show just, it starts racing and racing and racing and racing, and it just doesn't ever stop.
Yeah,
Um,
I believe that moment. Sorry that I interrupted you, but I believe that moment is when we finally know that nobody was behind that attack.
mhm.
Was in fact the proto molecule.
Yeah.
That's when we. Oh my goodness. Okay, this stopped being a traditional war story, a traditional war story in a sci-fi frame, and now it's getting interesting because it's something more um kind of like man versus the mysterious
It
big
is.
huh?
It is, and but it's still man. It's still people, but they're meddling with things they don't understand.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so you're right. Just the way that the story keeps pushing forward, keeps giving you surprises, keeps bringing in characters, making you like them, seeing that they're not perfect, maybe disagreeing with them here, agreeing with them there. Just you're always wanting more, and it always gives you just a little bit more. Um,
Yeah.
Season 4 slows down a little bit, but they're establishing a new story. I I know that there are 9 books in the series, and each season roughly equates to 1 book.
Mhm.
So I feel like, having not read the books, but you watch through the end of season 3, imagine that is Act 1 of the big story. And the way it ends, you can definitely see, oh, we're getting to that place where the story gets to enter a whole new phase. You can't open up all these worlds. You can't change the game that significantly and keep telling the story you were telling before. It's got to
Mhm.
be something new and something different. And I don't know where it's going, but I fully trust them at this point to take me someplace that I never expected to go, but that I want to be when I get there. I
Okay.
don't know any other further thoughts that I would have other than, I'm a straight man, but I would spoon with Amos all night long. Um, that is my guy. That is my man crush. He is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's lovable. And
He
like your
really
mom
is.
said, he's very easy on the eyes. Yes, he is. He's not right behind Pedro Pascal on my list, but he is definitely on the list. So, yeah. All right. So, my
He
final
is
thoughts would
that
be
guy. I just
he
say,
is oh, that phrase, it was hilarious because well, I watched the show with my husband. My husband he's another sci-fi nerd. Uh but
I like him
when
already.
But when Prax pointed out the gun and I was about to kill this guy, and Amos was like, "You're not that guy." My husband said, "He's going to say, but I am," and then he says, "But I am that guy." So it was
I
hilarious.
mean,
But it's totally Amos Burton
it was
right
so
there.
obvious. Everybody saw it coming, but
Uh-huh.
nobody cared when he said it because we're like, yeah, you are that guy. We wanted it,
Uh-huh.
and they gave us what we wanted.
Yeah. Praxis character was interesting too. I hope to see more in the future of him. Well, about him. And season 4 and season 5. I haven't seen season 4 and season 5. That's why we're just covering 1, 2, 3. But well, we have already 1 hour and 45 minutes of this
Yeah,
just from season 1 to season 3. So imagine if we would just catch up with the whole series. It would be endless.
I'd have to fall asleep. This is way past my normal bedtime,
Yes, yes.
but
So
but
this is the end of the Expanse. So now, Steven, tell us about your channel and what's coming next.
oh, okay. My channel is called Here Be Dragons. Just search for Here Be Dragons. That should be the top entry. There are several channels called that, but mine is the only one with more than maybe a dozen subs. So come join us over there. We talk about this type of stuff. We covered the Expanse. Had Cecilia on to talk about the Mandalorian recently. Next Sunday, or not next, but this coming Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we will be talking about the first 3 episodes of WandaVision.
Ooh.
Which have you watched that, Cecilia?
I haven't right now. I haven't so far because I'm hooked up with the Expanse. But
Fair.
I am planning on watching it because I have heard really interesting comments about it.
I've seen 2 episodes so far. It's been great. We've got more Expanse talk coming in the near future. Trying to get somebody to come talk to me about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse because I love that movie. Yeah, just you never know what nerdy topic we'll have from one week to the next, but we talk about a lot of nerdy pop culture, occasionally digging into things more like analyzing hero tropes or talking about the nature of being part of a fan community. But most of the time, we're just talking about nerdy TV shows.
Same
So yeah,
here. Same here. So,
yeah,
well,
basically what you do, but always in English,
uh-huh.
and
Always
and a lot of wandering off topic and irreverent humor.
Same here, but well, in Spanish and English now.
Right.
Okay, so what's next in Geeksterilia's podcast? Well, more content in English, and my next English episode will be with Christian from Smokescreen. We're going to be talking about the novel that he wrote, Crimson Gods, and that will be very interesting. It will be 2 episodes. Well, this episode, 2 episodes in Spanish, and then his episode. Were you going to say, Stephen?
When you have Chris on from Smokescreen, ask him to see his Stark banner
Mm-hmm.
because I gave that to him and it's awesome.
Oh, okay. I'll ask him.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask him. So yeah, for now, my English content will be going on every 2 Spanish episodes. I plan on doing it more often, but I still have to get used to it. Um, so next episode is going to be in Spanish. We're going to talk about the Call of Cthulhu, and I will have 2 very interesting guests. So if you're Spanish speaking, be sure to tune in. And well, I will see you around. And now, oh my goodness, this went well. This went well. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. I thank you for your like, your subscription, or your activation of the little bell, so you don't miss any of the content. You will find this episode in case you missed it, or in case you watched it partly. You will be able to rewatch this episode here on YouTube, or if you only listen to it, you will be able to listen in Spotify in a few hours. So see you around, and may the force be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you.